Back in April, I took a call with our family doctor, Dr. Ben Aiken from Lantern Health in Asheville, North Carolina. I was having a lot of concerns about this vaccine, the way it was being rolled out so quickly, how the media was forcing it down our throats, the way social media was, projecting certain concepts and ideas into my face every day. It was making me really uncomfortable. And I don't have to guess. I know that many of you are even still uncomfortable and you're still unsure what you're going to do about the vaccine. The truth is, no one can make this decision for us but us. No government entity should tell you what to do with your body, nor should any individual. For you to get this vaccine, or the prick as they call it, you're going to need to come to that conclusion on your own. Whether or not it's right for you is not up to me or anyone else. So please, if you're still on the fence and you feel like you need to know more, watch this video. Maybe it will help you glean a few things that you hadn't thought of before. And it'll either put your mind at ease with the decision you've already made to not get the vaccine, or it'll put your mind at ease to go ahead and get the vaccine. As far as I'm concerned, that's up to you. But we're here to help you come to those conclusions on your own, and we're here to promote free speech and free thought. And so, thank you for watching. This is Josh.
Hey Josh, it's Ben over at Lansing.
Hey, how are you, Ben?
I'm fine.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm good. I just have a few questions for you. I wanted to touch base. So I'm getting a lot of pressure from my wife to get this vaccine. And it's a point of contention in the house because we are currently trying to have a baby. And I know she's already gotten her vaccine, and that was in part with her work. Let's make sure she gets that, and that's fine. But being that we are literally like in the process of doing that right now, like this month, me getting that vaccine threw up a bunch of concerns. I don't know what's out there with this thing. I don't know what it means when, they talk about mRNA and all of this stuff. And the last thing I want is to impregnate my wife with some form of like weird defect in my sperm because I got a vaccine that's been untested. This is probably like just an irrational fear of mine, but before I did anything, I wanted to talk with you in person.
Yeah. I don't know. I certainly hear the concern. One, I'm glad that she has already gotten it in advance of getting pregnant. I think that's ideal. The initial studies on pregnant women are reassuring that this kind of MRA, the technology that they're using, is not a potential threat to the newborn, to the fetus. And so even if she was already pregnant, there is increasing data to say that it's safe, and we're recommending that for our pregnant patients. But I like the fact that it's already done, right? So you just kind of take that risk off. I haven't seen any data as it specifically relates to men and potential impacts on sperm. I don't. I'm just kind of theoretically thinking through that. I think the risk is likely really, really small. Let me see. I'm just going to look in one.
Are you looking something up or?
Yeah, I'm just going to look at one resource that I have to see if any of the trial data is monitoring that in some regards.
It just seems like there's not enough data yet to know whether or not it is a problem. And from what I've heard, anecdotally through friends and other people, who are also not qualified to make the statements they're making, but they, continue to talk, is that, this mRNA vaccine is like the first of its kind. there's a reason why they haven't done it this way in the past, and it's because it's very difficult to, and the reason why vaccines typically take a long time is because they have to test it for a long time to know if there are any weird side effects, like squid sperm or, random, blood clots. We don't know. And so I was geared up. I was about to go get it last week, maybe 10 days ago. And then that day or like the day before, it pops up that the Johnson and Johnson vaccine was pulled off the shelf. And so that I don't think people realize like how much that hurt the confidence for even the second shot, the Pfizer Moderna shot.
Oh, sure.
And, I was like, well, if they pulled that one, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to wait. I'm a healthy young man. I've got a strong immune system. I take my vitamins every day. Why even bother?
Yeah.
And I think I'm probably one of 200 million people or less. But you know what I mean? There's a lot of people like me who feel that way. And Andrea is a woman of science, my wife, and she has concluded that I'm an idiot and that I should just hurry up and go get it. And I just couldn't just jump on the bandwagon that quickly. I feel like it's a mistake. And so I need someone else to tell me it's okay. And that's why I'm talking to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I think it's interesting. There's a study that is going on from the National Library of Medicine. It started mid-December on the 14th, and it's slated to complete. Primary completion date is June 14th of 2021. And they've got 60 men enrolled, and basically what they're watching is sperm concentration and sperm motility in the 60 participants for the 6 months following vaccination. Mainly to look at impact on semen parameters, and so something triggered them to. It's being run out of the University of Miami down in Florida. Something triggered them to study it, and if you just Google it, as you probably have, it seems like there's some preliminary data that potentially there's an influence. It looks like some of that's been debunked, but again, all this stuff is very preliminary. So it seems like probably a little bit later this year we'll have more of an impact. For you, I think that in the grand scheme of things, there's a couple things that, factor in. So, one, you are in a low-risk category if you were to be exposed to COVID. So as we're thinking about just your risk of delaying vaccination for you, the risk is relatively low. If you were to get COVID, your exposure profile, just kind of given the line of work and things that you're doing, is also quite low. I think you all are being careful and cautious and all those things. So that side, I think, in the grand scheme of things, it's not a significant risk to you to wait in terms of if you were to get it. Your wife has already been vaccinated, so she should have protection if you were to get it. I think, and then, other family members around you, like if you were to get it and potentially expose somebody, really in some ways those risks are just the same whether you're vaccinated or not. You can still get it and pass it to somebody even if you've had the vaccine. So continuing to use precautions in that regard is worthwhile. I think the other piece is just kind of how much of a delay this would lead to, right? So in terms of planning to have a baby, getting pregnant, it could happen this month. It may take 5 or 6 months. It's kind of hard to predict. And so I'd say, again, we don't know, so I can't say with 100% confidence go get it. I think the overall risk is probably quite low. So if you just needed that kind of extra nudge to say, hey, I'm just going to, I'm going to get it, then I'd say go get it. I think if you have some concerns, given we can't say without 100% confidence, it's also not unreasonable to just say, hey, you know what, I'm going to hold off for 1 to 2 months. Let's focus in. I'm just going to take it off the table. Let's focus in on getting Andrea pregnant. If you are fortunate and she's able to get pregnant, in the next 1 to 2 months, great. And plan to get the vaccination and prep for baby to arrive and move forward with it. If she's not, or, if you're not able to get pregnant in the next 1 to 2 months, then, I don't know, maybe we revisit things, see if any data is available kind of come midsummer, and then decide to move forward.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to use it as like a motivational vector for her to like get on the bandwagon. It's like, well, let's go. Let's like let's just take this month and really like, get after it, and then, let's see where the cards fall, and at that point, I'll get it or not get it. I'm going with my gut, and that's why I haven't gotten it yet. And so I'm kind of doing exactly what you just said there. I'm just kind of waiting and seeing where we end up at the end of this month. And if we see an uptick in this, or if I feel like I have to start traveling a lot for work, then I would definitely go get the vaccine and not be an idiot. But in this case, the facts still aren't in. There's a study going on right now, apparently in Florida, as you just said. And I find it quite ironic that they're studying sperm in men. Why would they be doing that if there wasn't question about this issue?
Yeah.
Right. And so
I think it's reasonable.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll let my wife know that you said that. But at the same time, I feel like you're not choosing a side here. You're saying, hey, listen, if you feel like you need to get it, go get it. If you don't feel like getting it yet, just take your time and reduce your exposure. I think that's the smart thing to do,
Yeah.
And so I literally work from home. I don't have a ton of people, in and out of the house, so I don't see why it's such a big deal. Let me ask you a vitamin question. So I'm taking vitamin D. I'm getting a lot of sun now that it's warm, especially. And then I'm taking zinc. But I heard that there's another supplement I can take that helps the zinc get into my system. Do you know what that is?
I bet it's does it ring a bell if it was an amino acid of some form?
I'm a complete and total idiot. I don't know. It sounds like it could be, but that's just me appeasing your research because it seems like you're putting in some work over there.
It looks like there's some data to suggest that protein, like if you take zinc with protein, that can be helpful from an absorption perspective.
So just any form of protein?
The surface of that,
Just eat hot dogs or like a nice fat steak.
I can look underneath the surface. There is a manufacturer of supplements called Thorne, Thorne, that I think has a really good quality product. Their zinc product is a form called zinc picolinate, and that just on quick review is a more easily absorbed form of zinc. But again, some of the other ones, so compared to zinc sulfate, which sometimes is one of the more common ones that you see. So I think the type of zinc you're taking may have an influence. So I might take a look at that.
Okay, that's cool. I'll do that.
Okay. Cool. And if you find what you were thinking about and you want input, just let me know.
I will. Is there any other advice that you could give me that you've gleaned over the last 3 months with this whole thing that I could take with me now?
I think, what you're doing is what I'd focus in on. I'm still a big believer in, just eating healthfully, getting most of your nutrient benefits from that. I am a big fan of elderberry as a immune booster in the setting of viral processes. So I don't take it daily. I have some colleagues that take it daily through the winter as kind of a preventive or prophylactic. I just take it if one of my kids is sick. I've been around a lot of sick people through the course of the day at the clinic.
Well, it's just so expensive. It's hard to take it all the time. And you know,
Yeah,
if you're getting
it
the
does, yeah.
elderberry, the cough syrup looking stuff, I mean, it's like $35 a bottle, and then they've got the gummies, and
Yep.
they're a solid $22. You know, and I
Yep.
like when I'm feeling, I do what you do. When I'm feeling sick, I get some elderberry, and I just get as much in me as I can. And if I know it's going around the house, I'll get the gummies because Eris will eat the gummies. You know, my daughter, and so and then we just get everybody kind of like boosted up like that, and then we're fine, hopefully.
Yep.
So we were sick probably 4 or 5 times over the cycle of 2020 here to 21 in March. We had a pretty big scare, if you might remember. On the 28th of December, Andrea's mom came down with COVID. She had just cooked us a meal, and we ate her food, and she cooked it with her bare hands, you know, with no mask on, breathing over it. And I did lose my sense of taste, but I came to you guys and got a COVID test on that Thursday following the Sunday we ate, and or the Saturday we ate, and I tested negative, and I was like for sure thinking I had it because I couldn't taste or
Yeah.
smell anything, but I still tested negative. Are there false positives or false negatives that you're seeing going around with these tests, or is it just kind of par for
Yeah,
the course?
I mean, it can be. Yeah, the PCR test, the send-off test, is of higher quality than the rapid test, and so generally what we see is a falsely positive or a falsely negative rapid test, and then we confirm it, and we see an alternate with the PCR test. But there are instances in which the PCR test has been repeated within a couple-day period and has shown differing responses. So,
Wow.
I think that the definitive way to check if you at some point had it would be to go on and get an antibody level. The one caveat with that, it's about a $45 or $50 test.
Whatever.
The one caveat is we don't know how long those are persisting in folks' systems.
Do you
So
guys?
if your exposure was back in December, I would think that it would still be there at 3 months, the 4-month mark. But that would be the definitive way.
Do you provide that test through Lantern Health, or would I need to go somewhere else?
No, we could do it here. It's not a covered test.
Sure.
I'm going to
Sure.
pull up but yeah, it's just a blood test.
It's kind of worth it,
run.
you know. It's worth it to know if you've had it or not, and that would put more rest at ease for me with the vaccine. You know. Oh, and let me ask you this question: what's more durable for you at this point in time, having COVID and beating it with subtle symptoms and having those antibodies from the actual virus, or having the vaccine itself?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. In some ways, I kind of actually lean a little bit toward the vaccine, but part of that is because we have seen some folks. Well, it's an imperfect answer. I don't know, actually. I would maybe both.
Well, but that's, I mean,
your best bang for your buck, because we're seeing, so if you get the vaccine, some of these newer strains, we do see sometimes people get COVID with the newer strains, so there's only so much protection. And then we have also seen folks that had COVID, who several months later have had another round of symptomatic COVID. And so
yeah.
I think it's going to end up being similar to influenza, which is, even with vaccination, there's going to be a need for kind of on an annual basis to assess what the most likely strain is and consider yearly immunization for it. And then, if you had if you've been exposed to influenza, X 1 year, you don't generally get long-standing immunity against influenza X again in future years.
Okay. So the move
But
is.
I'm not a virologist.
It's fine.
So
I get it.
Take this with a grain of salt.
No, yeah. Well, that's what a lot of doctors are having to do. Is I'm sure you're not the only doctor getting hard questions like this, especially right now. And so,
Sure. Yeah.
And I mean, even people with more information than you have are still spitballing. And so I mean,
Yeah.
I just feel like, we all have to kind of go with our gut instincts at this point. So the move here, I think, would be to get COVID and then get the vaccine, and then you're probably layered up twice. And at that point, you're probably going to be okay if you survive both.
Yeah.
That was kind of a joke, but okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. So, all right. I'm just going to take that with me, and I'll pass this on to Andrea,
Okay.
and we'll make a decision as a family. She's so smart. It's hard to combat her with facts, like she's just really on it. And she's making me feel like I'm an idiot, and she's probably right. And so I told her, I was like, listen, I'm going to get a second opinion. And she's like, I'm a doctor. Why do you need a second opinion? I'm like, because you're my wife and you're biased. That's why. So now that I have your opinion, and as well, and her opinion is just as important, but I want to make sure that I'm covering all my bases before I go and do something that could cause me or my potential offspring harm. Thank you, man. This has been really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
my pleasure.
We appreciate you guys so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And if Andrea, wants to connect more directly, I'd be happy to. Just let me know.
Okay, I'll tell her. All right, man. Well, thank you, Ben.
Thanks, Josh.
Yep.
Talk to you later.
See ya.
All right.
Well, how about that? Love you, Dre.